Part 46. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 454. Outside the Kuwaitan Palace area, in a square at a road intersection. Several tall circular arenas stood quietly, forming a triangular formation. The three arenas are all white, surrounded by a dense crowd. From time to time, loud cheers can be heard, some people raise their hands to cheer, and some people look worried and talk quietly. But more people were staring intently at the ring. Eye-stabbing sword. A cold female voice came faintly from the ring. With a clang, a ray of silver-white sword light turned into a bunch of white thorns, rushed forward, and shot hard at a black-haired man on the opposite side of the ring. The man's expression changed slightly and he hit the ground with his right hand. A puff of black smoke rose up, hiding him in it. It was difficult to see clearly in the black smoke. After the white thorn sword light shot into it, it disappeared silently. A moment later, a woman in white quickly stepped back, covering her left shoulder with a pale face. As soon as she exited, she couldn't hold on anymore. She fell down and sat in the ring, and the white rapier in her hand broke into two pieces with a click. Blackbird wins. A nobleman in red with a white wig sat on the edge of the ring and loudly announced the verdict. Next person. An attendant beside the noble shouted loudly. I really don't know what your lord is thinking. If you want to recruit peripheral forces, what's the use of such a mortal fighter? Several noble men and women sitting in the high stands beside the ring whispered to each other. The men are chic and elegant, dressed in red, and the women are charming and charming, wearing lace white skirts. He is not very old, and there is a faint arrogance between his eyebrows. Don't make random guesses about your intentions, sir. We just need to execute the order. If this supervisory job were to be replaced by someone else, they would probably lose their head. A beautiful woman wearing a white round hat said calmly. She held a small white parasol in her hand that was more decorated than used. She wore pearl earrings on her crystal round ears. Her slender and round legs were tightly closed together and slightly tilted. The white lace waist skirt on her body made her the slender and beautiful waist is undoubtedly highlighted. Madam, do you think your excellency did this after receiving instructions from His Majesty the Palace Master? A male noble asked in a low voice. Who knows? Well, don't make random guesses. My words are for your own good, the woman replied calmly. This time the Black Fire Palace has recruited many disciples, and the treatment is extremely high. If we let some more trash into the palace, and something happens then, it will be our trouble. That's what I say, but aren't the people in these arenas all private soldiers of various nobles? When they see an opportunity, they all come over to build relationships. A girl next to her pouted and said unhappily. We are all mortal fighters, so why can't ordinary people use our noble ones? Doesn't it all depend on your ability when you get on stage? The male noble crossed his arms and looked at the ring. Look, again come down a civilian. Several people looked together. Sure enough, another man in plain clothes was carried down from one of the arenas. He was unconscious with blood bleeding from the corner of his mouth. He was obviously seriously injured. Standing on the stage was a man in green tights. He was holding a thin sword with blood dripping from the tip, and he was looking down with a proud look on his face. Okay, the winner wins 15 games in a row and enters the divisional round, the referee announced loudly. The man in green nodded lightly, with a hint of joy finally flashing in his eyes, and walked towards the back of the ring. There were rows of white seats, and some overcomers were already sitting on them. These are the winners after winning 15 games in a row. Most of them are dressed as nobles, with gorgeous and exquisite clothes without losing their heroic spirit. There were only a few people in civilian attire, and all of them looked silent and did not say a word. Unlike the nobles, they valued this audition competition much more. Scenes like this are everywhere in the entire imperial capital. The Black Fire Palace announced to the world yesterday that it would conduct an audition to select its disciples. Use the recently popular radio as a channel and distribute notices and leaflets everywhere. Anyone who can successfully be selected into the top 3 in the overall ranking will be personally accepted as a disciple by the Black Fire Palace Master, who will be given the real secret method to break through the mortal level and become a truly powerful person who can be on par with the Totem Master. Even if you don't get into the top 3 or the top 100, you are still qualified to join the Black Fire Palace and have the opportunity to become the new Black Fire Guards. Before the arena began, the Lord of Galan Palace appeared in person to speak. No matter you are high or low, no matter you are old or young, no matter you are male or female, as long as you can meet the requirements, I will give you the power of hope. So for a time, 20 arenas were opened in the entire imperial capital at the same time, constantly selecting the top fighters among ordinary people. In the past, such selections were actually carried out in other departments, but they were always selected totem masters, while ordinary guards did not have much requirements at all. They were directly selected from the lower level nobles and knights. There is basically no problem for common people. This way to reach the sky is actually monopolized by the nobles. The only hope for commoners is to become a member of the aristocratic class through great achievements, great contributions, illustrious military exploits, etc. And now, the Black Fire Palace is the first to break this taboo blockade. It also aroused the dissatisfaction of many great nobles. Fortunately, the Black Fire Palace only recruits 100 people. And it is said that the palace owner personally taught him a fighting technique called secret martial arts. No one knows what secret martial arts is. What kind of fighting skills are worthy of being taught by the Lord of Black Fire Palace himself? No matter what kind of fighting skills, if there are no gadgets matched by the workshop masters, it is estimated that even the first type totem master can easily crush the fighters without any pressure. But after the second update of the notice, the entire imperial capital suddenly boiled. Countless people flocked to the ring, and more people were waiting to take the stage. Some were locals from the imperial capital, some were legionnaires, and some were children of nobles. There are also mercenaries, outsiders outside the imperial capital, etc. There are very old men, young boys and girls who are still childish, and most of them are fighters who originally had no hope. All of this comes from Garen's second official declaration. Black Fire Palace recruits disciples without looking at the qualifications of totem masters, and totem masters are not allowed to participate. Some people even got confirmation from the internal guards of the Silver Palace that the Lord of the Black Fire Palace had indeed mastered a key technology that allowed ordinary people to break through the barrier of totem power. Someone has confirmed this from the Terry Jones family. Everyone originally thought that the cost of this technology must not be huge, but they did not expect that the master of the Black Fire Palace was willing to open it directly and let everyone participate in the audition. Time passed day by day. The news in the Black Fire Palace gradually became confirmed step by step. The Lord of the Black Fire Palace created a secret martial arts fighting skill called Blackwater True Skill. Once practiced to a certain level, one can break through the limits and truly activate the power of the totem. For a time, Blackwater's true power became the hottest topic in the entire imperial capital. The top totem masters went to the Black Fire Palace to see Garen. Even the other giants set out to visit the Black Fire Palace and had a long talk with Garen before leaving. The totem masters at the bottom were a little panicked, but after asking their elders, they learned that this fighting skill has many limitations. If you want to practice to a breakthrough level, you don't have to choose totem master qualifications. The rarity is even greater than that of totem masters. In this way, the fear of being replaced by low-level totem masters is slightly alleviated. They are the biggest foundation in the totem world. The material processing by the workshop masters and the infusion of various totem powers from the magic array are tasks that ordinary people cannot do and that elite totem masters look down upon. The first type totem masters with the largest base are all responsible. Even if there are so many people running away in the entire imperial capital, there are still thousands of Type 1 totem masters. Not to mention the influx of the three major legions and the gradual return of some of the departing nobles. A week later, early morning. Inside the Palace of Black Fire. In the main hall, which is black with dark red patterns, sitting on 2 rows of black stone seats on both sides, there is a man, woman, and child with extraordinary reputation and temperament. Most of these people seem to be in high positions, and they have a sense of overlooking everything from a high position. Teenagers and girls in black clothes were passing through the crowd, constantly offering them fresh fruits, drinks. The palace lord's throne at the top in the middle of the hall is still empty. On both sides of the throne, not far away, are 6 slightly shorter black stone seats with high backs. The high degree of consistency indicates that the status of the people who are about to sit in these seats should be similar. The 6 seats are divided into 2 sides, 3 on each side. Below, there are the people on the black stone chairs who have already taken their seats. These people are all celebrities in the imperial capital and representatives of some powerful forces, including representatives of war guilds, representatives of assassins guilds, spokespersons of higher-level nobles, spokespersons of large chambers of commerce, etc. No one thinks that the 6 vacant seats above are unreasonable. Since the Lord of the Black Fire Palace has placed these positions, which are only a little lower than him, it is obvious that the people who sit in these positions definitely have identities that match this position. Strength. Finally, after an unknown amount of time, the white morning light slanted in from the skylights on both sides of the hall and converged on the aisle in the center of the hall. A figure finally walked out of the entrance and exit on the right side of the palace. 3 men and women of different shapes and wearing white costumes walked into the hall, and under the guidance of the waiter, they took the 3 seats on the right side of the main seat. The nobles and spokespersons below suddenly became in an uproar. They whispered and communicated with each other, but found that no one knew the 3 men and women in white. These 3 people are not young. The oldest is white-haired and is estimated to be 70 or 80 years old. The youngest is also in his 50s. They all have something in common in their clothing, that is, they all have more or less white plush on their bodies. Fox fur is used as decoration. Moreover, they all have a dark crescent mark on the left side of their faces. The only woman was wearing large and small bells all over her body, and the bells kept ringing as she walked. It gives people a touch of exotic style. The palace master is here. There was a soft whooshing sound, and a black figure suddenly appeared on the highest throne. He was dressed in black robes and his eyes were like lightning. It was the Lord of the Black Fire Palace, Galen Terry Jones, who was notorious in the imperial capital and even the entire Kuwaitan. Garen's figure is slender and well proportioned, but when he sits on the high seat, he has a majestic feeling, like a dragon or a tiger. The moment he appeared on his seat, the whole hall shook slightly, as if making an overwhelming sound. When a strong person managed to break free, he found that the palace was intact. The shock just now was actually just an illusion in his mind. For a moment, everyone was shocked beyond words, and their awe for the Black Fire Palace master deepened several levels. Only then did they remember that one of the 4 giants of the empire was still young at this time and might be making progress every moment. The master of Silver Palace has arrived. Silently, the handsome figure of Ephesus appeared in the first seat on Garen's right hand. He held a white longsword and looked at the 3 people opposite him with slightly wrinkled eyes. Only then did everyone notice that the 3 mysterious people sitting on Garen's left side did not move at all under the powerful shock just now, but the expressions on their faces became more solemn. It turns out that they were a little careless, and even seemed a little dissatisfied with their seats. Now I am really completely calm. There was a faint white halo around the 3 of them, and at some point, young men and women appeared behind each of them. The 3 boys and girls are also dressed in white as snow, with tight-fitting clothing, and a small piece of crescent-shaped white fur sewn on their shoulders. Their expressions are respectful, and they are obviously the descendants of the three people sitting in the seats. At this time, three people came out from behind Ephesus. They were the three disciples of Ug. They were standing behind him with rapiers in their hands, looking equally respectful. Garin glanced at the entire audience and sat upright. His eyes finally fell on the three people on the left. This election is an important event that lays the foundation for my Black Fire Palace. I would like to thank the three masters of the Seven Knights Tower of the Snow Mountain for traveling thousands of miles to come here in person. It is a great honor for me, the master of this palace. Palace Master, you're welcome. Ardagzu Mountain Seven Knights Tower has been adjacent to Kuwaitan for a long time, and we have also heard of the Palace Master's name. It is an even greater honor for my Seven Knights Tower to be invited to watch the ceremony this time. The white-haired old man who took the lead quickly bowed his head and responded politely. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 455. It is said that the depths of the snow mountains are full of dangers, ferocious beasts are tyrannical, and the environment is difficult. The Seven Knights Tower is the strongest force among them and can be called the representative of the entire snow mountains. I didn't expect to see three tower owners here, Ephesus slowly said when he opened his mouth. He had entered a certain mysterious level between types 4 and 5. When he spoke at this time, he had a strange and indescribable feeling. The tone is obviously soft and friendly, and the wording is paid special attention to, but it gives people a strange feeling of coldness and no warmth. I'm sorry, I've realized recently that my body has changed a lot. He also knew his current state, so he added at the end to avoid misunderstanding. Is this the Lord of Silver Palace? 120 years ago, the White Rose Sword Saint Ephesus once killed 12 island demons in the East China Sea and wiped out the island demon totem organization. With such a record, even if I've heard about it in the Northern Territory, the female tower master in the middle said calmly. Excessive praise. The people below suddenly became noisy. Only then did they realize that the White Rose Sword Master from 100 years ago was actually the current Lord of Silver Palace, Ai Ding. His original name should be Ephesus. Let me introduce it to you. Garin spoke at this time, pointing to the first white-haired old man among the three on the left. This is the second tower master of the Seven Knights Tower, Moroba Blizzard. He is known as Master Bakanjian in the Northern Territory. Standing behind him is his disciple. The white-haired old man stood up with a smile and saluted everyone around him. His etiquette was a little different from that of other countries in the central region. Instead, he clasped his hands together and touched the tip of his nose. The disciples behind him also performed the same etiquette. Garin went on to introduce the second one. The second person is Ruth Starry Night, the fourth tower master of Seven Knights. She is known as the luminous goddess in the Northern Territory. The person standing behind him is also his disciple. Luminous goddess, Blizzard, the white-haired old man who just sat down, the second tower master, twitched his lips slightly. The fourth tower master's nickname in the Northern Territory was not goddess, but devil. Her favorite thing in life was to torture and kill beautiful boys, and countless innocent lives died at her hands. It was only in recent years that as I got older, I restrained myself a little and stopped killing innocent people in the past. Just mentioning her name in the Northern Territory could stop children from crying. Beautifying the witch into a goddess, and seeing the slightly satisfied smile on the lips of the witch Xingyi, Blizzard gained a new understanding of Garin's side. Garin ignored it and continued to introduce the last one. The last one is my old friend, the third tower master Engiad Ammonian. He is revered as the master of Ammonian in the Northern Territory. Engiad still dressed like a wizened old man, short in stature, with twinkling eyes, giving people a sinister feeling that was not easy to provoke. After hearing Garin's introduction, he stood up, forced out a fairly gentle smile, clasped his hands together and touched the tip of his nose in all directions. He sat down again. Master Bakanjian, Luminous Goddess, and Master Magic Thought. These three people are the three masters sent by Key Pagoda to support Garen this time. They are all true peak masters of Type 4. However, although the Seven Knights Tower is tyrannical at the top due to the harsh surrounding environment, the middle and lower levels are seriously lacking in strength. And unlike Kuwaitan and other large and powerful countries, although the Seven Knights Tower is the largest force in the snowy mountains and stretches for tens of thousands of miles, the Type 4 peak is already their strongest representative. The strongest number 1 tower master is only at the peak of Type 4, but the only difference between him and the other tower masters is that he controls the only ultimate secret treasure in the Seven Knights Tower. This is the strongest invincible master in the entire Dexyoshan Mountains. No totemist can resist his pressure. The weaker forces huddled together, barely able to resist his ferocious power. In the central region, just the country of Kuwaitan has 3 of the 4 giants, all of whom have their own ultimate secret treasures. With the same 4-type peak plus the ultimate secret treasure, the country of Kuwaitan is far superior to the strongest force in the snowy mountains. Not to mention the original secret treasure like the final shelter, people in the snowy mountains had never even heard of it. After understanding the powerful terror of the central territory, a force within the Seven Knights Tower suddenly had other thoughts and wanted to get out of the snowy mountains. These 3 tower masters are representatives of this force. It just so happened that Angiad and Garen had cooperated several times and they were quite familiar with each other. Garen has gone to the Northern Territory many times to hunt monsters and mutated beasts to make up for his potential points, and he met Angiad every time. The first time the 2 sides met by chance, and the next few times, it was obvious that Angiad took the initiative to approach Galan. Garan Black Fire Palace was also short of high-end power to take charge, and the 2 sides hit it off immediately. As you come and go, friendship gradually develops. Angiad has a fickle temperament, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Although he is at the peak of Type 4, he never likes to face the enemy head-on. He always cultivates various mutant beasts that he captures to fight against them. During the relationship, I tested Garen several times, and I felt that the other person was the type who could restrain him and was invincible, so I was naturally convinced. Garen relies on his terrifying regeneration power and has 9 lives. He is not afraid of death when he moves his hands, and is extremely ferocious. In just a few rounds, he broke through the large swath of mutated monsters and came directly in front of him. The injuries sustained in the middle healed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. After 2 trials, Angiad was completely convinced. It was the first time for everyone below to see the masters from the Northern Territory. I have also heard of the name of the Snow Mountain. After Garen mentioned the Seven Knights Tower, some older people also vaguely remembered that before the big change happened, there were some contacts between the Central Territory and the Northern Territory. In particular, representatives from several major chambers of commerce know better. At that time, the Imperial City Chamber of Commerce Alliance occasionally went to the Northern Territory to purchase goods. The furs and rare herbs there were very good and of high quality. People in the Northern Territory had never seen the world. 100-year-old snow ginseng could be received for only 100 gold coins. It's simply too good quality and too cheap. In other countries, the market price would be at least 50,000 gold coins. Gold coins were hard currency, and when exchanged for gold wool cloth, the price was 10 to 1. 50,000 gold coins converted into 5,000 gold wool cloth. It's simply not cheap. Over time, some people in the Chamber of Commerce also regarded the people in the Northern Territory as a barbaric land. Unexpectedly, the master of the Seven Knights Tower, the most powerful force in the Northern Territory, came here. There were whispers below, but the ones above didn't pay much attention. Then the attendant announced that the fighters selected from the audition would be brought up one by one. Groups of audition candidates were brought forward. For this opportunity, they all won consecutively from tens of thousands of candidates and were finally selected through auditions. It was only a week of auditions, but the various things they experienced were more numerous and complicated than they had been in many years before. The aristocrats and big businessmen resorted to various tricks, including bribery, conspiracy, and threats. There are even fighters with noble backgrounds secretly sending totem masters to seriously injure the contestants. Some people also use small tricks in the arena competition, using some highly concealed workshop masters to inspire tools to win. Fortunately, Galen asked Ephesus's 3 apprentices to come forward, plus Lala to supervise, and invited several professional professors from the academy under the command of the Grand Duke of Whiteknock to solve various troublesome problems. This successfully eliminated most of the bad competition. Groups of winners were brought up respectively. Garen asked someone to place a large white jade-like boulder in the center of the hall, and asked all the candidates to place their hands on the jade stone. Anyone with the qualifications of the black water true skill, the jade stone, there will be a slight flash of blackness. Using this tester prepared by Garen himself, he can just select the fighter who is most suitable for his true black water skills among the audit Iones. One celebrity candidate was singled out by Galen. The rest were taken down. Although these people who were taken down did not pass this test, there was still the next level, the perseverance test, which was to use special techniques to simulate the pain of green vine parasitism. From low to high, gradually approaching the real level. This is the result of some recent additions to the Terry Jones family of workshop masters. If you can't even pass this level, you can only become the lowest level security guard in the Blackfire Palace. Although the security guards of the Blackfire Palace also have benefits that far exceed those of other forces, they are ultimately unable to compare with the higher level Blackfire guards and the core disciples of the Palace Master. After batches of audition candidates came up, they went down again. After 7 or 8 batches in a row, Garen only named 5 people. These 5 people are the ones who can make jade black for the longest time. All tests were not completed until no one was brought up from below. Garen frowned and looked at the 5 people below, 3 women and 2 men. One of the women was almost 40 years old, and the others were all young, no older than 23 or 4. And 2 of them were dressed as nobles. 5 people stood at the bottom of the hall. They had been listed as the core disciples of the Blackfire Palace, and Garen would personally accept them as disciples. So even though they were standing, many representatives and spokespersons who were sitting looked at them with envy. The top 3 enter the palace. The final moment has arrived, and the top 3 in the audition will definitely be accepted as disciples by Garen. To be able to stand out among so many competitors, its strength is definitely beyond what ordinary people can imagine. Soon, 3 middle-aged men with extraordinary temperament walked into the hall. 2 men and 1 woman, all in their 30s or 40s. The moment they walked in, a smile suddenly appeared on Garen's face. Sure enough, it was exactly as he expected. These 3 people are actually master-level experts. In the world of secret martial arts, he is at least at the fighter level. The fighters in the totem world are different from the secret martial arts world. They have no courage and do not have the ability to suppress the enemy with their own energy. They are taking another path, to highly condense themselves. All the essence, energy, and spirit are gathered inside the body, airtight, like a living sealed can, minimizing the leakage of essence, energy, and spirit. Achieve the purpose of prolonging life and strengthening body. This reminded Garen of one of the highest realms of martial arts on earth, the golden body. As soon as these 3 people walked in, they gave people a unique feeling. Their temperament is so strong that people never want to take their eyes away from them. This kind of person, placed in a vast sea of people, would stand out from the crowd, as clear as oil in water. The 3 Grand Masters stood in the hall with calm expressions, neither humble nor arrogant, with a normal demeanor. Okay, Garen patted the armrest, the smile on his face getting deeper and deeper. These 3 people have cultivated their energy and spirit in their bodies to an extremely terrifying level. The density of their entire bodies has reached a level unimaginable by humans, almost like evolving life forms. It's a pity that if they were placed in the world of secret martial arts, these three people would probably be at least at the level of peak fighters. The three of them were all wearing uniform black clothes, and they saluted Garen and everyone around them one by one. "You three, are you willing to join my family? Become your teacher." Garen is obviously young, but when he says these words, he gives off a majestic quality. No one present felt awkward, as if this was a matter of course. "I am willing, Beller," the first man finally couldn't help but the flash of ecstasy in his eyes. "Answer quickly." The other two people reacted equally fiercely, with uncontrollable joy on their faces. "I, am willing," the woman replied loudly. "Sharam, meet the teacher." The last one simply knelt down immediately, his whole body was shaking slightly, and tears could not stop pouring out of his eyes. He had a simple temperament and was obviously from a civilian background. He didn't know what he was thinking of at this time, but he was so excited that he acted like this. In fact, the three of them, as the top three, were the first to come into contact with the huge piece of jade. As a result, the jade reaction was extremely weak. Originally they thought they had no hope. After all, the audition is only the first level. If you can't pass the second level, it's probably hopeless. Unexpectedly, after bringing them to the main hall, Garen would directly accept them as his disciples. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 456. Put on the ring. Shouted the herald nearby. Three pretty girls in white dresses who had been prepared came forward carrying 3 silver trays. On the plate are 3 small finger rings that are as black as ink. Each ring is engraved with simplified lines similar to a 9-headed dragon. The identity badges of the Black Fire Palace were distributed on the spot in the main hall, which made the onlookers truly feel that Garen valued these 3 people. The 3 masters took off their rings and put them on different fingers of their hands. The 3 of them were taken off the stage by the attendants, followed by the people they had just selected. Step forward to accept the ring. This time it is a black and red ring, which is a status symbol slightly lower than pure black. This not only represents differences in status and benefits, but also represents differences in the degree of acceptance of education. Finally, those who passed the 3rd perseverance test in another examination room were brought onto the stage and awarded a crimson ring, which was a 3rd-level status symbol. Almost everyone in the imperial capital knew that Garen had completely occupied the largest royal treasury, sharing all its resources equally with the Silver Palace, and even controlled a large area of land in the palace area. Even the eldest princess and the 4th prince of the royal family did not dare to return to the palace to avoid conflicts. After all, one of the other 2 Grand Dukes has a good relationship with Garen, and the other will not conflict with Garen for a little property. Although they did not obtain the royal treasury on the surface, they also obtained the more secret royal inner treasury. Both sides know it well, and they can be regarded as getting what each other needs. The people in the perseverance examination room are different from the previous 2 groups. Their salary is much lower, except for those who completely pass the exam in the examination room. Although those who persist more than half are considered qualified, they need to pay a considerable entry fee every year. The meaning of this measure is that only those who can reach the top level with qualifications and perseverance are qualified to be cultivated by the Black Fire Palace and heal those with less qualifications and less perseverance. If you want to gain something, you have to pay the price. This is equivalent to tuition fees. It's not like Garen didn't know that other forces must have sent someone here, perhaps to try to steal their knowledge, or perhaps for other purposes. But he didn't care. After comparing with Ephesus, he discovered that there are many Type 4 totem masters with secret weapons in this world. but there are only a few who can break through Type 5. Secret martial arts is only one of the necessary conditions for the 5th type, but not all. Reaching the 5th type, he was still a little confused at first, but after merging the first dragon head of the 9-headed dragon, Garen had a vague idea. The 5th type is that the totem and the totem master merge into one. In the end, the totem is absorbed by the totem master in the form of secret martial arts, and the two are completely integrated to achieve the purpose of evolving the level of life. To put it simply, the totem master and the silver lantern master are a path through which external things can feed oneself back and achieve the evolution of life. The cultivated totem grows step by step, driving the evolution of the human body, and eventually reaches a strange new level. This path goes far further than pure secret martial arts, and even suppresses the development path of science. In other words, the development of totem itself is also a science. There are many, many types of secret martial arts, and there are many, many types of totems. The human body is even more different, with different talents and qualifications. Secret martial arts, totems, and the human body must achieve an unprecedented unity before they can be finally integrated. In other words, if my Wu is not suitable, then don't even think about fusion. If the totem doesn't fit, so be it. If something goes wrong with the human body, don't even think about it. If there is a problem with any of the three, there is no need to think about being promoted to Type 5. At this time, Garen could better understand the thoughts of those top experts who were about to be promoted to the 5th type at the peak of their 4th type. The period before promotion is the most critical period. It can range from a few years to a few months. During this period of time, you must practice quietly, constantly adjust your mental state, physical state, and totem state, and absorb and fuse with the most suitable secret martial arts. You must not be interrupted or seriously injured. No matter which one of the three has a problem, all previous efforts may be wasted. Once interrupted, if you want to resume the state, the time and energy spent will be several times greater. Suitable totem, suitable secret martial arts, and the most suitable physical and mental state for you. All three are indispensable. Therefore, even if the secret martial arts is given, many Type 4 and Type 5 strong men will not cause much of a sensation. Only the secret martial arts that suits you is the best. It took Ephesus hundreds of years to fully understand the connection between the three, and it was not until the battle with Garen that she gained some insights, and was able to truly realize the flaw in her swordsmanship that she had never been able to perfect. Satisfy the condition of the secret martial arts that is most suitable for you. Although his perfectionism is at work, and perhaps his abnormal emotions towards his totem are at play, it is certainly not a joke to be able to block him in this field for hundreds of years. From ancient times to the present, Type 4 totem masters have all kinds of strange abilities, and there are many people who have the means to extend their lifespan. However, most of these Type 4 totem masters have been lost in history. The main reason is that they cannot adjust their body and mind to achieve perfect fit. Degree of unity. This level takes a long time, so most of them concentrate on trying to adjust their state in silence, but countless people pass away in silence, and only a few people break out of the cocoon. There are too many people stuck at this level. They don't lack secret weapons or totems, but the process of adjusting and replenishing their body and mind is actually a spiritual realm and level that cannot be accumulated by resources. It's not something you can simply break through with your natural talent. What it needs is experience, insight, and a flash of inspiration that can then be grasped and consolidated. Improving the soul is the most difficult hurdle to break through Type 5. Both Garen and Ephesus have entered this final level. The 9-headed demon dragon and white rose are the most suitable totems for the two of them, so this level is over. Garen has many secret martial arts all night long. After modifying and fine-tuning, he kneaded the essence of his own martial arts into one, sorted and created the black water true skill that is most suitable for him. It just so happens that the secret martial arts level of his King of the Century naturally has huge advantages in physical and mental adjustment. The control and fine-tuning of oneself at this level are far more powerful than those of a totem master. Therefore, Galleon has actually achieved the two most difficult items, adjusting the state and being most suitable for secret martial arts. Unfortunately, as Shinaun said, his biggest limitation now is the totem. The nine-headed demon dragon has insufficient potential. After all, it is not a true complete bloodline gene. It is just a nine-headed dragon that has evolved to complete the incomplete genes of the two-headed lizard dragon. It is inherently deficient. Instead, this became the key to restricting his progress. Therefore, Shen Yun's words were not just spoken casually. He estimated that after completely merging the nine-headed dragon with the secret weapon, he should be able to barely reach the primary level of Type 5, but it would be really difficult to advance further. No matter how strong the combat power is and can compare with the peak of Type 5, the level can only go so far in the end. However, when those old guys can't escape from the world, they enter Type 5 and are already among the top powerhouses in the world. Enough to hold the top positions in the three major agencies. After coming back to his senses, Garen glanced at the center of the hall below. The last group of self-financed disciples were taken down. Today's scene was immediately concluded successfully. It just so happens that so many friends have given me the honor to come to the celebration today, and I have something big to announce. Garen suddenly spoke loudly. Everyone who had been waiting to leave suddenly paused, not knowing what big event Garen planned to announce. There was a slight murmuring among the people below, but most of them looked attentive and focused their attention on Garen. Garen nodded with satisfaction. I created my own Black Water True skill, and the original Black Fire Palace is no longer applicable, so while so many friends are here today, I announce that the Black Fire Palace will be officially renamed from today on. He paused. Changed to Kurosawa Palace. The nine-headed demon dragon is the swamp overlord, so changing it to ZE is just right. In the future, the disciples who practice the Black Water True Kung Fu will definitely choose the water-based totem due to the nature of the secret martial arts, which is worthy of its name. With his own power, Garen does not have to do everything himself. He can also ensure the safety and interests of his family, and can easily gather more intelligence resources. It will also have a greater effect on his future purpose. Kurosawa Palace. The name is quite concise. Originally, the palace master is not a fire totem, so it is natural to change his name. The people below all made sounds of agreement. Garen smiled and moved his gaze to the three tower masters on the left. Of course, this is not the big thing I want to talk about. The real big thing is the Seven Knights Tower from the snowy mountains in the Northern Territory. The three tower owners, at the invitation of this palace owner, officially became the honorary elders of my Kurosawa Palace. The status is only beneath myself. Honorary elder, this position does not exceed everyone's expectations. Being able to travel all the way to Khawatan, with so many dangerous crises and troubles along the way, naturally it will not be as simple as a simple congratulations and celebration. Only a few people did not expect it and were surprised. Among the three tower masters, Blizzard, the second strongest tower master, stood up. I am honored to be invited by the Lord of the Garen Palace to come to Khawatan, a big country with a long history, and to become the honorary elder of the Blackpool Palace. This is my personal honor. He bowed slightly to show respect. Blizzard Tower Master is welcome. Garen nodded. The other two tower owners also stood up and said a few polite words. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, a burst of violent and fierce laughter came from the sky outside the palace. I heard that Hydra Gallon has extraordinary strength. He has traveled thousands of miles across the world and came here to challenge me. I believe the palace master won't let me down, right? The person's voice was terrifying, shaking the entire ground, and the soles of everyone's feet felt slightly numb. At the same time, Everyone turned to look at Garen. Since Garen became famous, this is the first time a strong person has come to challenge him. Every top powerhouse who has become famous has experienced countless challenges and battles and finally stood at the top. Garen's fame was short-lived, his whereabouts were uncertain, and major events happened one after another, resulting in nothing like this happening for a while. To this day, he has lived in the imperial capital for a long time, and even started to establish a sect and control organizations such as Kurosawa Palace. These people were immediately given a chance. Stepping on the heads of famous and powerful people and becoming famous in one fell swoop is the fastest shortcut. Those strong men who have practiced hard for many years are eager to prove themselves after coming out of seclusion and create a legacy for future generations. Naturally, rely on strength to find the shortest path. Garen sat high on the throne, his eyes slightly closed, as if he didn't hear any sound at all. On the other hand, the luminous goddess on the left stood up and gave a sweet smile as clear as a bell. It just so happens that my extreme ice flame is still short of 2 main ingredients. I really borrowed the palace master's good luck. Before he finished speaking, the figure on the seat of luminous goddess slowly disappeared, and she left directly as she spoke. There was just an afterimage on the seat. The speed was so fast that even Garen and Ephesus didn't have any chance. Suddenly, there was a loud thunder-like sound in the sky outside the palace. There was a coquettish smile mixed with it, and waves of clear ringtones swayed, as if they were directly transmitted into the depths of everyone's hearts, like a lover pouring out his heartfelt sorrow, making people's hearts itch. "Who are you?" "The one I want to challenge is Hydra." The strong man's voice stopped abruptly. In an instant, a white shadow shot into the hall and landed on the throne on the left. It was the luminous goddess who had just left. I saw 5 sharp fingers on her right hand, and she was actually holding a bloody red heart in her hand, which was beating loudly. In the seats below, some women faintly exclaimed, and most of the men turned pale. Within a few breaths, a strong totem man outside had his heart ripped out by the woman's bare hands. Such cruel behavior is in sharp contrast with the white and blood-red body of the luminous goddess who looks like a beautiful woman. The luminous goddess smiled and handed the heart in her hand to her disciple. There was no trace of blood on her hand, and she sat down again. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 457. The goddess has great skills, Garen finally said. Within 5 breaths, he was able to defeat a Type 4 strongman, and he deserves his reputation. Palace Master, thank you, the goddess chuckled. The 3 of them are elders invited by Galen at a great expense. How can they completely convince the public if they don't show some tricks? In a region like the Central Region where there are many powerful people, both sides are dependent on each other and compete for interests. When they show strength, they actually show the power of Kurosawa Palace. Shock everyone. Garen also understood this, so he deliberately pointed out people's strength. His record was on display, and the strong man who came to challenge him obviously didn't come with the motive of killing him. He probably just wanted to escape unscathed by him and become famous all over the world. After all, Garen is now one of the 4 giants in Kuwaitan, and his status cannot be underestimated. This person must have investigated everything and prepared for Garen's ability before coming to fight. Unexpectedly, he met the luminous goddess with strange abilities. The totem of the Northern Territory rarely appeared in the Central Territory. Without the knowledge of both parties, the totem's light was broken and the heart was dug out in just one encounter. Sure enough, the faces of the guests and guests below all changed. It turned out that they had never had a clear idea of Garen's strength. Now that they saw with their own eyes that a Type 4 strongman like luminous goddess, who hunted masters of the same level with bare hands, respected Garen so much, they felt how terrifying Garen was. "Come here. Present the Elder's Ring." Garen gave the order directly. The 3 girls stepped forward tremblingly and presented the 3 tower masters with black elder rings with silver in the middle. just when the three were about to pick up the ring. Wait. Suddenly another voice sounded. The person who spoke this time was none other than Ephesus, who was sitting alone on the right. Seeing the three people opposite him looking at him with unkind expressions, Ephesus' expression did not change. It just so happened that I also invited two close friends to come. I also intend to become the elder of Kurosawa Palace. We are three of the same. I wonder if Lord Garin is willing to accept it? When the time comes, it would be better if we all take over as elders together. Garin smiled slightly. This was a process that had been planned for a long time, and he was not surprised. If the Master of Silver Palace is willing to join, given our relationship, is there any need to say this? Ephesus nodded. Hold the sword hilt lightly with your right hand. Clang. There were bursts of exclamations. A snow-white bolt shot out suddenly, forming a white light bridge and flying out of the hall, directly into the sky. From the entrance of the main hall of Kurosawa Palace, a white light bridge several meters wide suddenly reaches the sky, forming a straight avenue thousands of meters long. Whizzing. Two bolts of black lightning fell, landed on the bridge, and instantly transformed into two figures in black robes, one man and one woman. The two of them turned around slightly and stood still, walking down the Jianguang White Bridge. Strangely, the two of them could span a distance of more than 10 meters with one step. Master of Woguang Island, Master of Konkin Island, long time no see. Ephesus stood up, with a gentle smile on his always cold face. The two people in Cambridge quickly entered the palace, and only then did everyone see their faces clearly. The man has a pale face and no beard, one ear is unusually fat, and he wears a huge silver pearl ring with more than 10 large white pearls on it. Even a tight-fitting black silk robe could not hide the strong muscles on his body. He chuckled when he heard Ephesus's voice. Little Fifi, I haven't seen you for so many years and you still look so girly. Everyone suddenly recovered from the shock just now. When they heard this, some people couldn't help but almost laughed out loud and quickly covered their mouths in fear. Ephesus' expression remained unchanged, as if she didn't hear anything at all. The other woman had an ordinary appearance and dark complexion. She just stared at Ephesus with a sad look in her eyes. Fifi, how dare you not come to see me after all these years? Her voice was extremely beautiful, like a kingfisher singing softly, smooth and clear, without any impurities. There was a huge contrast between a woman with such an appearance and Ephesus's handsome appearance, but what people didn't expect was that a trace of guilt flashed in Ephesus' eyes. I'm sorry for you. Please take your seats, please. Galen spoke quickly to prevent the two old lovers from ruining the entire atmosphere by making eye contact. The two island owners slightly saluted Garin. I've met the Lord of Palace Jialong. Then, under the guidance of the maid, he walked to the seat under Ephesus and prepared to sit down. Wait. This is the third interruption today. But this time no one was surprised. The speaker was Blizzard, the second tower master of the Seven Knights Tower, with a trace of dissatisfaction flashing in his eyes. Master Silver Palace, we have no objection to the White Rose Sword Master becoming an honorary elder. The strength of the Rose Sword Master was actually demonstrated many years ago, and we have heard about it as far away as the Northern Territory. His Kui Tanu spoke extremely fluently. They are just the other two island owners. Has anyone here heard of them? The female disciple behind him immediately chuckled in harmony. Teacher, it is said that the 72 islands in the East China Sea were completely destroyed in the First World War, and most of those islands are now deserted islands. Are these two island owners the only ones on the island? How are you talking? After all, they are your elders, so it is not your turn to speak here. Go back and enter the Jibing Cave for 3 days to meditate. Although Blizzard was scolding, there was no dissatisfaction on his face. Yes, I made a mistake. The female disciple pretended to be aggrieved and lowered her head to admit her mistake. The fat-eared man sneered and turned to look at Blizzard. The Seven Knights Tower of the Four Towers in the Northern Territory. You don't dominate the Northern Territory, but you dare to come to the Central Territory. Don't be killed accidentally. It would be too unfair, he sneered again. As for my sunless island, whatever the situation is now, you don't need to worry about it. No matter how dilapidated it is, 100 or 200 Sea Dragon Masters can still be hired. As soon as these words came out, the contempt on Blizzard's face softened a little. Others don't know what Sea Dragon Master is. They have dealt with Donghai, so they naturally know it. Sea Dragon Master is an honorific title that can only be obtained by totem masters in the sea who have reached the level of spiritual light and are eligible for promotion. Belongs to real high-end power. Unlike the bitter cold places like theirs, the East China Sea Islands are rich in products, and the seafood resources allow the people on the islands to have enough food and clothing. Perhaps due to water and soil problems, the base of totem masters there is very large. The only flaw is that they have too few top-level experts. The fourth type is the strongest level. The fifth type still requires physical and mental sedimentation. This kind of realm improvement, without the foundation of history and culture, it is difficult to improve. It seems that they are limited to the fourth type and cannot make progress, so they have come to the central region to look for opportunities. Luminous Goddess and Anjiad, the master of magic thoughts, communicated with each other. I haven't heard much about Wuguang Island, but Konkin Island is the largest of the 72 islands. Its overall strength is not bad. I didn't expect that there would be such a young island owner. Ammonian nodded. Are you going or should I go? Luminous Goddess asked directly. Ammonian chuckled, without making any comment, and just glanced in the main direction of the second tower. The Luminous Goddess snorted and said no more. Strength is not just a matter of words. The honorary elder of Palace Master Jialong is not someone who can come in and interfere. Blizzard said word by word, his eyes looking at Wuguang became more and more fierce. I seem to know you. Kong Qin suddenly turned his head and stared at Blizzard. More than 30 years ago, during the battle for the Snow Demon's heart, were you the Blizzard who was seriously injured by my father's palm? Blizzard suddenly looked a bit ugly. That battle was a lifelong pain for him. Now there is still a clear red palm mark in the middle of his chest, which cannot be dissipated, no matter what method is used. Having his scars exposed in front of his face, he is not a generous person to begin with. Immediately, his eyes flashed with murderous intent, and countless dark spots emerged from the surface of his skin. The densely packed leopard-like spots covered his whole body in an instant. The left side of his face suddenly faded, and half of his white owl face appeared. Boom! Blizzard shot out a palm, and a column of black air spun towards Kong Qin opposite. As expected, it is the pinnacle of the four types of totems that are about to become one. This kind of power can only be mastered by totem masters who are at the critical point. Just like Garen now, every move can be as powerful as a dragon without consuming totem power to mobilize the totem. Such terrifying power is entirely due to one's own strength. As long as the energy is sufficient, it can be used for days and nights without any problem. The black air column rolled and flew, turning into a rotating and cutting black disk in mid-air, flying towards Konkin with a roar. The master of Konkin Island also looked a little solemn. She raised her right hand, and a blue light suddenly shot out from the cuff, heading straight towards the black plate. In an instant, the blue light and the black disk are in direct contact. Woo! A sharp vibration sounded in the hall. The black disk and the blue light were in a stalemate in mid-air, refusing to give in to each other, suspended in mid-air. The black energy and blue light that burst out overflowed in all directions, and then converged into the black disk and blue light without affecting the surroundings at all. The entire hall is dyed in black and blue. After a short stalemate, the black disk slowly overpowered the blue light. Laugh. At this moment, a white line shot from between the two, passing between the black plate and the blue light, cutting off the two sides directly like a blade. The white thread was nailed to the palace wall, and it was a white rose. There were actually a few drops of crystal dew slowly dripping from it. Humph! Blizzard snorted and took back the black disk. He glanced at Ephesus. Kongqin also retracted the blue light into his sleeves. There was just a slight sweat on her forehead, and it was obvious that the moment just now was not easy for her. Both of you are distinguished guests of this palace, master. Please give me some face today and stop mentioning the grudges of the older generation. From now on, we will all be in the same camp and we must support each other and help each other. Garen finally said, open your mouth. Both parties are masters supported by his Kurosawa palace. Naturally, he doesn't want to fight among himself before they can be put to use. That's what the palace master said. Blizzard nodded and found a way to go down the stairs. Ephesus' strength has obviously exceeded the level of Type 4. He didn't say it, but he was becoming more and more afraid of it in his heart. Kongqin also smiled apologetically at Garen. Take the Elder Ring. Garen sat at the head of the table and watched as several girls stepped forward and presented 3 identical silver dot rings. 6 top players wore them one after another. For a moment, everyone below the main hall hurriedly applauded, and the applause was like thunder. During this time when Weiss was seriously injured and recuperating, Garen's power became more and more powerful after this expansion. The Wang family's treasure house is so vast and valuable that it can be used to worship these masters for hundreds of years. Not to mention that there are some hidden institutional secrets in the underground palace in the palace area. Garen himself is not a sit-down person. With the help of 6 experts at the same level, he is now sure that even if Shinaun comes again, he will be able to get in and out. What he is fighting for now is time. It takes time to integrate his own totem and achieve a breakthrough in strength. During this period, he must not make any mistakes, get injured, or have big mood swings. Everything has to be stable enough. Until this period is over. To completely integrate Zhuolongtu, during this period of time, it will naturally require sufficient power to protect it. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 458. Deep in the renamed Kurosawa Palace, there is a newly opened training ground. The chief guards of the family, Mark Ella and Adna, stood on both sides, with a total of 8 newly recruited disciples in the middle. They all put on uniform black costumes, and both men and women looked heroic. Garen stood in front of them, standing with his hands behind his hands, his eyes scanning the many disciples as if they were real. He said nothing and stood like this for a long time, his eyes just looking at these new disciples with his will. These people are not so much the disciples he accepted as the experimental subjects he selected for his self-created technique. The true power of black water cannot really allow ordinary people to break through their limits. This requires specific practice. Different people have different physiques, and naturally the effects of practice are also different. This is also preparation for what may happen in the future. The 3 mortal masters stood at the front without making a sound, which was in stark contrast to the impatient expressions on the faces of everyone behind them. They are able to cultivate to the master level from a mortal level, and naturally have a character far beyond that of ordinary people. The early morning sunlight shone lightly on everyone, reflecting the slightly dark luster of silk. Garen finally spoke. No one has practiced the black water true skill that I created myself, so I'm teaching it to you this time. I don't know what will happen. He directly admitted that this was an experiment. If you regret it now, it's still too late. The 3 grandmasters, 2 men and 1 woman, are the 3 most valued by Garen. The second-level disciples behind them do not have good rankings, but their qualifications are particularly suitable for the black water true skill. These secondary disciples are a bit yin-yang yang-wan, 3 women and 2 men. After hearing Garen's words, everyone showed no expression. Since they had broken through many obstacles to get here, they were definitely mentally prepared. Okay, now I will teach you the first level of the black water true skill. After you complete it, come back to me to get the second level." Garen said no more and directly passed on the first level of the secret martial Blackwater True Skill. After sorting out the Blackwater True Skill, there are 4 levels at the mortal level, and then there is the breakthrough level. After the breakthrough, there is a new world, which can activate the power of totem. The content of thousands of words on the first level was narrated word by Galen. Then it was time for everyone to ask questions. Time passed by minute. The 3 masters didn't have many doubts. They already had a very high level of control over themselves. Although the first level of Blackwater True Skill was not very suitable for them, it was still easy to understand. He glanced at the 3 masters with satisfaction. From today onwards, an internal competition will be organized every month. The top 3 will receive certain rewards. These 3 are the strongest disciples of my Kurosawa Palace. If they can continue to stabilize their rankings, the rewards will gradually increase. You will be interested in unexpected surprise. Garen said with a smile. After the recruitment meeting that just ended yesterday, Kurosawa Palace's income was not as big as usual. The small families and businessmen who wanted to be associated with him contributed a lot of resources and wealth. The income from external self-financed disciples alone reached a terrifying hundreds of thousands of gold will cloths. This was not just a one-time income, but it's the tuition fee every year. There are also other expenses such as accommodation fees. These disciples live in the palace area. Every day, the 8 disciples in front of them will set up a high platform to teach the first level of the Blackwater True Skill to Jialong. This is Garen specifically asking these disciples to cultivate their own forces. They will form interest groups one after another, and then continue to form groups. In this way, the influence of Kurosawa Palace will reach an extremely huge level. The point. As for whether he would be learned by undercover agents from other forces, Garen was not worried at all. Because Hai Shui True Kung Fu has extremely special characteristics, it was completely created based on his own physique, and it is the most suitable secret martial arts technique for him, so no one can surpass him. Type 5 masters from other forces also have secret weapons that are most suitable for them, but theirs are not suitable for promotion. The only key difference between Blackwater's true skills and the secret martial arts mastered by those people lies in the key skills and techniques to break through the limits after the 4th level peak. This method can only be broken through by Garen himself, and it can only be broken through in theory, but has never been practiced. With his fine-tuning ability at the level of King of the Century, he can guide the past in the most critical places, which is basically impossible to copy. Because there is no second King of the Century in this world. Of course, maybe many years later, someone will figure out the secret, but knowing the secret doesn't mean it can be implemented. Because it is a technique from another world, it cannot be broken through simply relying on imagination. What is also needed is the influence and style influence of the secret martial arts system of another world. In order to imitate the technique and leak it to the public, Garen has tried every means possible. In addition to the key to keeping one hand, he also set up numerous interference obstacles in the technique. Some useless techniques and training steps were made half-truths and half-falsies by him. Moreover, there are 2 versions of Blackwater's real skill. One is a simplified version, which only has his Bai Hua cloud capturing hand plus a little bit of 10,000 waters and Blue King skill. This simplified version cannot activate the power of the totem. The function is to make practitioners more suitable for wearing Kurosawa heavy armor and adapt to the power of Green Vine Ball. Garen divided his Wangxiang fighting skills into single moves, each move was listed in a simplified version, and combined with the 10,000 waters Blue King Kung Fu to form 4 palace areas in the east, west, south, and north. These 4 areas practice different fighting skills in all directions. After the final mastery, the effect will be the Totem Master's version of the 4-way fighting skills. Dongwang Xiao, Zifeng Fist, Nanchuang Fist, Bei Hua Qin Yun Xiao. Garen himself is also very curious, wondering how powerful these 4 simplified versions of his own martial arts essence will be after being transformed into totems. The simplified version was called Sifang Wangxiang, and he listed a quota of Sifang celestial generals in each region, in order to commemorate his former title in the world of secret martial arts. The status of the Sifang Tianzhong is the same as that of the core disciples, or even higher. They have the right to mobilize a certain number of peripheral forces in Kurosawa Palace. This is equivalent to concentrating the rights of the peripheral self-financed disciples to 4 people. This is a strong force, because more and more people are defecting to Kurosawa Palace, and there are also more and more totem masters and workshop masters. After the defeat of the war, a large number of totem masters and workshop masters fled back to the imperial capital, and almost all major forces were frantically absorbing power. The status of the 4 heavenly generals is determined by fighting. The 4 regions hold internal competitions. The strongest one is qualified to become a heavenly general and receives the strongest 4 sets of Kurosawa heavy armor given to Kurosawa Palace by Garen himself. That is the elite armor belonging to the strongest 4 guards. This is the periphery. As for the core disciples, it depends on how far they can reach. If they are suitable, Garen will personally select the totems from the royal family's treasury and give them to them. There are many totems in the royal family's treasury, and there are still hundreds of sets of precious level totems. As for ordinary totems, there are more and more workshop masters under Garen's command, so it is not difficult to make them yourself. They can also choose the totem they like, or customize it themselves from the workshop master of Kurosawa Palace. After teaching the first level of the Blackwater True Skill, Garen and Masalan chatted about the family's situation and gave them some pointers on the Blackwater True Skill before leaving the square and heading to the technology hall in the palace area. Along the way, many destroyed places in the entire palace area have been repaired. In some places, workshop masters are concentrating on setting up warning arrays. Groups of patrolling Kurosawa heavy guards pass by from time to time, with neat footsteps. Uniform. When passing by the garden area in the middle of the Sifang district, Garen saw a child chatting with a little girl from a distance. The little girl was working hard to practice the basic moves of Zifang Fist. She wore a short black ponytail and her face was full of determination. She paid no attention to the playful smiles of the children next to her. The child was lying on the swing talking from time to time, seeming to be teasing the little girl. Garen was just slightly surprised that he actually accepted such a small self-funded disciple, and walked away. The little girl was only about 10 years old, but she seemed to be unexpectedly determined. Maybe he is a talent that can be created, but there are not many talented people who can be created under Garen now, so he doesn't care. No one in this world could compete with him for a talented disciple with a strong secret martial arts talent. Passing through the garden area and past several square areas where the sound of beatings could be heard. Soon, after passing through a small garden, a white palace in the depths suddenly appeared in front of you. The palace is triangular in shape, like a pyramid, with small round doors for entrance and exit on all 4 sides. The entire palace is divided into 3 floors. The first floor at the bottom is the largest, with a length of 50 or 60 meters. The gate was guarded by the guards of Shirogane Palace and the Kurosawa Heavy Guard. Seeing Garen's arrival, the guards immediately lowered their heads and saluted. A young girl with a pretty face quickly walked out of the small palace door, and it turned out to be Lala. Her long brown hair was tied into a bun on the side. She was wearing a black dress with a dark red belt tied around her waist. The black-red color formed a dazzling contrast with her white skin. Palace Master Lala also changed her title now and bowed her head slightly towards Garen. "How is the situation?" Garen walked into the small palace and asked casually. 18 workshop masters have been recruited, all of whom are at least Type 2 level. There are also 2 Type 3 masters, who are professors from the destroyed Ningguan city. Lara answered after him. The first floor is empty, with all the workshop engineers conducting research and work on the floors above, and living nearby. The place has not yet been fully constructed and set up, and some equipment has not yet been successfully transported. Is there no spiritual master? Garen asked lightly, glancing at the people coming in and out of the main road on the first floor. Workshop masters can only be considered masters after they have reached spiritual enlightenment. It is much more difficult for them to be promoted than ordinary totem masters. They spend most of their time on research. There is an invitation. Forget about the other two masters. There is just one master who originally agreed, but for some reason, he suddenly changed his mind. Lara also frowned slightly. Without a master-level workshop master, it would be difficult to customize high-end totems, and many excellent totems would not be produced. This is very detrimental to the overall development of Kurosawa Palace. Change, Garen narrowed his eyes. Investigate the cause, and if anyone intervenes, deal with it? I suspect so. There's no need to tell me the reason. I, Kurosawa Palace, am not afraid of any force. Garen interrupted her. Since the other party has intervened, they should be prepared to face us. If you don't have enough manpower, you can mobilize 20 Kurosawa heavy guards. If you don't have enough, go to the Silver Palace and apply. He won't refuse. If a high-end totem master appears. It just so happens that Elder Tianv still lacks the main ingredients of medicinal materials. They will have enough benefits after taking action, Garen replied, walking to the door of a closed room on the left. When I'm away, if you have any trouble, you can handle it yourself. If there are problems that cannot be solved, you can apply to the elders. If even the elders find it difficult, then let me know. Understood, Lala replied succinctly now. After following Garen for so long, she was already familiar with all kinds of handling. There was a bang. Garen pushed the door open and walked into the secret room. The secret room was surrounded by darkness. A simplified pattern of a giant lizard dragon head was carved in the center of the ground. Two blood-red long and narrow dragon eyes were vicious and ferocious, which happened to be the only source of light in the secret room. Garen closed the door, walked to Longan and sat down cross-legged. In the darkness, not long after, the 3 vermilion marks on his eyebrows slowly lit up, emitting the same scarlet light. Wangdu Yungang District. Hathaway was standing in her garden pruning flowers. Since she came back from the hospital last time, the Grand Council was convened and Galan became one of the 4 giants. A series of changes caught her completely off guard. Even her current status is somewhat aloof. Recently, as the Black Fire Palace was renamed as Kurosawa Palace, 6 top elders were recruited in one fell swoop, and its power increased dramatically. It became an extremely terrifying force in the entire imperial capital. The other forces also felt a sense of crisis and recruited strong people to join them. So much so that the current situation in the imperial capital has entered a situation of peaceful development. The eldest princess and the 4 princes are all stepping up their efforts to develop themselves. Facing the terrifying power of Garen and 6 masters of the same level, they all feel a sense of crisis. It's just that these things are a bit far away from Hathaway. Originally, she hoped that Garen could stand out and develop the family. Now she has achieved this goal. As a member of the Terry Jones family, even if it is just a branch, she can feel the changes in the attitude of the surrounding environment towards her. Everything seems to be getting better. Lift the shower kettle and gently spray water on the pruned flowers. The early morning sunlight shines on the flowers, reflecting the little water droplets with a crystal clear luster. "Little Sophie, are you at home?" Sylvia's voice began to yell again. She didn't leave in the end, and her family didn't leave either. They chose to stay, which was largely due to Garen's influence at that time. "Sylvia, are you done with today's work again?" Hathaway looked back and saw Sylvia secretly planning to attack him. The sound was far away just now, but now it suddenly came so close. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 459. You do it again, Hathaway glared at the sky flatly. I have no work today, so I have a day off early. So I came to see you. Sylvia smiled playfully. You are really free. Hathaway shook his head. Where's that little girl? Sylvia glanced around but didn't find Danny. I don't know. Recently, it's still the same as before. I go out early and come back late, and like to have fun. A trace of helplessness flashed in Hathaway's eyes. You're still young. You are so prosperous now that you have such a powerful cousin, Sylvia said with envy in her eyes. What's so developed? This is how we live every day. Hathaway smiled calmly. Now that everything she wanted to be satisfied was achieved, and the family responsibilities were shouldered by Garen, she didn't have to worry at all. His only goal is to raise Danny well. The branches of the Terry Jones family came to visit her a few days ago. Galen is now the patriarch of the Terry Jones family. These branches strongly hope to integrate and return to the main family. Speaking of which, these branches are doing pretty well, and when Garen was notorious and had yet to achieve anything, they didn't add insult to injury. They all extended a helping hand, but Garen didn't respond at the time. All invitations to him were ignored by him. Hathaway was wondering when to mention it to Garen. There were 2 people from the Silver Palace guarding her door. If anything happened, she could convey it to Garen through them. Listening to Sylvia's chirping voice beside her, she suddenly felt that her life was so peaceful. A sense of peace and happiness permeates my heart. 3 days later. In the secret room. Garen suddenly opened his eyes, and the red light in his eyes shot out far away, pulling out 2 red lines. The red line condensed in the air for several seconds before slowly dissipating. The vermilion mark on the far right side of his eyebrows became faintly dim. Slowly raising his arms, 2 red phantoms of lizard dragon heads suddenly appeared in the palms of his hands. Roar! The low dragon roar slowly echoed in the secret room. The second dragon head. Garen murmured, his eyes falling on his attribute column again. Black Water True Skill, formerly 10,000 Waters Blue King Skill 6th level, 6 levels in total, powerful control of all liquid objects. Toxins are strengthened to the 2nd level, and regeneration is strengthened to the 2nd level. Sure enough, there has been a change. Originally, the 5th level was the limit. Now after integrating the 2nd dragon head, I have reached the 6th level of the deduction. Toxin enhancement and regeneration enhancement, these 2 abilities that I originally had, have been strengthened again, and they are useful. Not big. Garen frowned slightly. The Blackwater True Skill he cultivated himself was the truly perfect version, not the version taught to others. Originally, when he created and blended the secret martial art, he only used the simplified secret martial arts as the basis. Unexpectedly, he successfully integrated the essence of his own martial arts and obtained this top secret martial arts. But now after integrating the 2nd faucet, the effect obtained is not satisfactory. The 9-headed demon dragon lost 2 dragon heads and was fused by itself, but what it got was only 2 not very powerful strengthening effects. Logically speaking, it should not be so weak after absorbing and merging the secret martial arts of the 9-headed dragon. He was deep in thought. The purpose of absorbing the totem is to advance the secret weapon, and then use the combination of the totem and the secret weapon to push oneself to the pinnacle of evolution. Is there something wrong with my secret weapon? But according to the inference, there should be absolutely no problem. Since you have already embarked on this path, there is no need to worry. Let's go to the end first and then see the effect. Garen calmed down. The next step is to go out and check the research progress of the workshop engineers. He is currently imitating the crystal ball of the Black Sky Society's deduction device. He has captured several of them. They were obtained by the masters of the Silver Palace in recent times hunting down the Black Sky Society. But they are all at the school level. Workshop engineers are trying to crack the hidden lock, but unfortunately, without truly significant researchers, this progress has been minimal. If this thing could be imitated, the problem of Galleon's potential points would be satisfactorily solved. Use the deduction device to control the silver totem, hunt monsters and totem masters, and get a lot of potential points. This was an irresistible temptation for Garen. After leaving the secret room, the maid waiting outside quickly brought water. After drinking some water, Galen went to wash up, finished his meal quickly, and went to check the progress of the workshop masters. However, he suddenly saw a white-haired old man being hummed between the workshop masters' experimental benches on the second floor. A large group of people surrounded him, and he seemed to be the person in charge here, not the fat man before. The old man had a serious expression. When he saw Garen arriving, he was stunned for a moment and then took the initiative to greet him. Master Galen Palace. The others also wanted to salute and say hello, but were stopped by Garen's wave. Your work is important, don't pay attention to me. I just asked a few words and left, he said with a smile. After the second floor gradually returned to calm, the old man led Garen to a closed crystal greenhouse. Master Kilian, I have sent people to invite you many times, and now I finally invite you here, Garen said with a smile. The master of the palace was joking. I was actually willing to join Kurosawa Palace, but there was some trouble along the way and I was blocked by others. But now the problem has been solved, the old man Kilian waved his hand. I also know your purpose of coming. He walked to the middle of the greenhouse, where the ground suddenly made a whining sound, and 3 white columns rotated and rose from the ground. In the middle of the column is a hollow crystal container, with 3 black crystal balls suspended in it. This is the success of our imitation. Fortunately, we have some information and progress accumulated by the royal family in the past. However, even so, the crystal deduction device we imitated still lacks the most critical core technology. Even I can't help it. So, the current progress is only about 80%. Kilian frowned and replied. Garen was slightly happy. Very good, very good. As expected of a master, before Master Kilian came, our progress was less than half of the imitation, and now it has reached 80%. Palace Master, you have given too much praise. Kilian felt a little ashamed. He originally planned to work hard to make some achievements to prove his value and importance, but he did not expect that he would not succeed in the first project. It's not your fault. Galen shook his head. In the center of the crystal deducer, there is a core part made of special minerals. The principle of this part is relatively complex and difficult to crack in a short time. It also involves the principle of resonance and high-energy transmission. The formula may not necessarily apply here. You need to change your thinking. Perhaps studying the structure of the nest will help you. Nest. Yes, Garen carefully began to explain some of the information he had to Kilian. These are the technical knowledge system of Black Sky Society that he got from Fengling Lilan. His own attainments in this area are also very high, and driven by his potential, he can complete the accumulated learning time of more than 10 years and decades for others in just 1 year. Naturally, his capital is not as rich as usual. He is a master in every subject. The two had a conversation in the greenhouse, and it was the first time that Kilian met such a knowledgeable research resource provider. This made him even more excited, and he felt that coming here was definitely the wisest choice in his life. A researcher's greatest hope is not to have a knowledgeable funding boss, rather than an ordinary layman who only looks at results. In this way, the other party can understand your research to the greatest extent. After the two communicated, Galen saw that the time was a little late, so he had a working dinner with the researchers, and at the same time asked everyone to concentrate on the research without any psychological pressure. Then he slowly left. When we walked out of the technical hall, the sky outside was already slightly red. The warm wind blew by, making me feel warm, and the surrounding gardens were filled with the crisp chirping of birds. Some researchers' family members and children were walking and resting nearby, and some even took pets such as puppies and kittens. On the way out of the garden, some old people gathered around to play chess, and some played with the birds in the cages they were carrying. There were even two old men fighting each other vigorously. This is the biggest source of income for mortal masters in the world of ordinary people, teaching the elderly to exercise and prolong their lives. The power of fighting seems extremely fragile here. Garin was filled with emotion and said nothing. Many people around him didn't recognize him at all and just thought he was a family member of the same researcher. When leaving the garden, Mazilan was waiting outside. As soon as he saw Garin coming out, he took the initiative to greet him. "What's up?" "A message came from the eldest princess, inviting you to a dinner party." Mazilan paused and continued, "His Royal Highness also sent a souvenir." He handed over the red envelope he had prepared. Garin took it and saw that the surface was sealed with a very high-end totem light. Without knowing the decryption sequence and method, it was impossible to open it safely. This was a measure to prevent someone from peeking. Garin directly tore open the envelope sealed by totem light. On a piece of white paper inside, there was only one line of elegant small characters. "I have what you are looking for." Garin snorted coldly. With a squeeze of one hand, the letter instantly turned into countless fine powders and dispersed in the wind. "Looks like I really need to go there." The eldest princess has obviously guessed his intention, and she should have the imitation of Sisi Ting in her hands. I don't dare to hope for the real Sisir Ting Garin. After all, it has been integrated into the spiritual will of the late king and has been activated. The current situation is that if you are not of royal blood, you should not even think about controlling it. The next level imitation is at least the ultimate secret treasure level. If he can obtain this secret treasure, his strength will be greatly improved. The original Black Crow formation pocket watch could exert the power of the four types to the greatest extent, and it was only a lower level imitation of the ultimate secret treasure. The power of the real ultimate secret treasure now is likely to reach the fifth type level. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 460. Clang. The light of the world comes from far away. The sun is as bright as the moon. Dream, when will you come back to my heart? The sky is no longer blue, and the clouds are like gray lead. The melodious sound of the Taiwan piano spread from the performer not far away. Garin stood in front of the window, wearing white casual clothes, playing with a ruby-like pebble in his hand. This is the eldest princess's villa. The room he is in has rows of black bookshelves, a medium-sized soft bed, and a low coffee table for entertaining guests. It feels like both a bedroom and a study, and more. Like a living room. The room is very large, and in the empty space on the right side is a black harp with gold patterns, which is a piano-like instrument. The performer is a beautiful and lovely blonde girl with long braided hair hanging on her shoulders. She is singing passionately and lowly. The singing was accompanied by the sound of the piano, echoing continuously in the room. The volume was just right, not too loud, not too small, as if someone was whispering something in the ear, and it could penetrate into the heart. Garin leaned against the window and looked out. This is the third floor, and below is a small courtyard between the buildings. Inside, several good-looking girls are competing on the swings, and laughter is constantly coming. He has been waiting here for a long time, but the eldest princess happens to be taking a bath now and cannot come for the time being. I don't know how long it has been, but the red sunlight outside casts an increasingly slanted light on the floor. Garin showed no sign of being impatient. After playing for a while, the girl felt sweat on her forehead. She stood up, bowed slightly to Garin, and left on her own initiative. Then another girl in a white waistskirt walked in. This girl held a violin. After saluting Garin respectfully, she started playing without saying a word. The pure violin sound is like the humming of insects, soft and melodious, as if there is nothing there. Hiss. Suddenly, the sound of the call erupted in high pitch, giving people the feeling of being caught off guard. It was played in an instant, like a storm, and the girl's hands slid quickly and trembled. The sound of the piano was like a violent storm, with raindrops pouring down. Even Garen's heart skipped a beat. This sudden burst from gentleness to the extreme was so drastic that even he couldn't react. At this moment, a pair of small hands gently covered his eyes from behind. "Guess who I am?" A female voice that was deliberately holding back its breath came from behind. The faint girl's body fragrance penetrates into the nose. "Your Highness, stop making trouble." Garen was not surprised at all, he calmly took a step forward and turned around. Sure enough, behind her was the eldest princess in a tight platinum dress. She pouted, as if she was blaming Garen for not understanding the charm. The tight-fitting skirt she wore perfectly outlined her breasts and waistline, and the skirt on her lower body was shaped like a cheongsam. There was a gap all the way to the top of her thighs, and she could see it all with just a slight lift. Garen didn't want to get too close to her. The eldest princess used her body to seduce and control countless powerful people. Although his physique is not afraid of ordinary toxins and is extremely resistant to particularly powerful toxins, it is a basic principle to avoid what can be avoided. Liv knows that she is not qualified to expect to be too close to you. But do you know? In this deep palace, whenever she feels lonely and unbearable, Liv will always think of you, the palace master. You are the only one who is completely right. Liv's body is a man without any intentions. The eldest princess walked to the window pitifully and looked down as well, but her eyes were a little lost. You are a 9-headed demon dragon that is so powerful that people are afraid of it. It is invulnerable to all poisons, and your reputation is enough to scare countless malicious people. Are you still afraid of a weak woman like me? Why would you do this if you want to get closer to you? Difficult. The eldest princess's eyes slowly filled with tears. Garen's face was calm, and he was still playing with the ruby pebble in his hand. His eyes were fixed on the eldest princess, as if he was just enjoying a dull drama. Such a witch will always make everyone feel that she is telling the truth to herself when she speaks. This frankness is mixed with provocation and a certain degree of desire that she ignites with her own gifted and beautiful body. When mixed together, it becomes the most mellow poisonous wine, which is both tempting and dangerous. Although Garen is confident that he is not afraid of the other party's control methods, there is no need for him to risk his own physical impulses. It is worthless. Especially since he was drugged last time just for a meal with the eldest princess, this experience really made him uninterested. At this time, the violin sound gradually became softer, and the gentle and melodious sound was like a woman's moan, which was particularly stimulating. The tears in the eldest princess's eyes finally fell down. Her eye circles were red, and she took out a white handkerchief and gently wiped the tears. How rude. It doesn't matter, Garen said lightly. Actually, I envy those who can cry. Because it's hard for me to do it myself. That's right, the eldest princess slightly returned to her original playful tone. Some people say that tears are the privilege of the weak. She smiled slightly. Clapping his little hands, the player immediately put away the piano rod, bowed, and turned around to go down. Okay, let's put all this aside and let's talk about business. The eldest princess finally looked serious. She walked to the piano table on the right and sat down on a high stool. One of her beautiful legs was gently raised and resting on the other leg. Oh, I feel so relaxed after crying. She tilted her head back and stretched hard. This position can make any lustful male feel itchy. It can be said that 90% of men will not be able to help but take advantage of the opportunity when she cannot see themselves to peek at the scenery between her beautiful legs. People will always relax their guard and reveal their most primitive nature when no one is paying attention to them. Unfortunately, Garen calmly sat down opposite her, with one hand on the armrest of the seat and the other hand gently rubbing his temple, as if he was closing his eyes to rest. "Tell me, what's the condition?" "I'm determined to get the imitation of Zhi Ting," he stated the purpose lightly, without any concealment. The ambiguous atmosphere in the room suddenly disappeared. The eldest princess returned to her original elegant sitting posture, and finally there was a hint of helplessness in her eyes. "Okay, okay. It seems that in your eyes, I can't even compare to an imitation." Seeing that Garen was not moved at all, she stopped beating around the bush. "We call this imitation of Zhi a flash barrier." As she sorted out her thoughts, "Let me tell you its advantages and disadvantages first." She cleared her throat and said seriously. "The flash barrier can release a hemispherical invisible barrier in an instant, blocking all hostile attacks. Whether it is totem light or general physical attacks. The defense level is determined by the releaser's own strength. But this barrier it can last for a moment, about 2 seconds, and then it will automatically dissipate and collapse. Although this barrier lasts for a short time." She paused. "However, it also has a very important ability. That is to condense explosive crystals." "Explosive crystal?" Garen touched his chin. There was no mention of this imitation having this function in the information he knew. "Yes, the explosive crystal is condensed from the enemy's totem light attack. Anyone who has attacked the flash barrier and failed to defeat the barrier head-on will have a part of the totem light absorbed by it. When these absorbed totems, when there is enough light, a powerful explosive crystal will be condensed. It can be released as a thrown explosive, and it should be very powerful," the eldest princess explained. "It should be big?" "Have you never tried it?" Garen was slightly stunned. "Of course we have tried it, but the flash barrier we activated can only resist the highest level of the 4th type. No matter how high it is, there is nothing we can do," the eldest princess said helplessly. "Don't think that the flash barrier is so powerful and the effect is so okay. You can attack or defend, but don't forget the most important point." "The most important point? Is it the energy consumed?" Garen frowned slightly. "Yes. The Grand Duke of White Knock once commented on this secret treasure. It is very powerful, but it is a pity that it cannot be used." The eldest princess sighed. "Why would I be willing to give it away?" "Gift?" Garen was stunned for the second time, and then returned to normal. "The energy consumed should be life force, right?" The eldest princess nodded. "After a second type totem master tried to use it, all his life force was drained." "No wonder you wanted to give it to me." Garen was relieved. "No one except me would dare to use this thing. Now, tell me, what are your conditions?" He didn't believe that this witch would give him a treasure for nothing. The eldest princess looked at Garen sadly. "Am I just such a Philistine woman in your mind?" Garen remained unmoved and just stared at her calmly. Okay, the eldest princess stood up, held her breasts with one hand, and gently pulled a white gold necklace between her breasts. "This is the flash barrier." She pulled off the white gold necklace. At the top of the necklace was a lightning-shaped symbol pendant. The surface showed a bluish-white silver color, and was decorated with a circle of fine vine patterns around it. "I only have one condition," she whispered. "If you want it, just reach in and get it yourself." The pendant sank into the ravine and became invisible. Garen was speechless. "I didn't expect her to do this." "Do you dare?" The eldest princess snorted, puffed out her chest, and looked at Garen with a sarcastic expression. "The majestic master of Kurosawa Palace is actually afraid of a weak ordinary girl. I plan to publicize this matter." Garen was silent for a moment and slowly stood up. Walked up to the eldest princess. The other party raised his pretty face and looked at him provocatively. Garen smiled slightly, stretched out his right hand and flicked his fingers. "Laugh." Suddenly the necklace popped out in an instant and landed firmly in Garen's hand. Snapped. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 461. You, The eldest princess began to burst into tears again. Suddenly, she turned around and ran away. The door opened with a click, and then was pulled shut with a bang. The eldest princess's sobs and grievances could be heard faintly, getting farther and farther away. Garin quietly sat back in his seat and carefully looked at the secret treasure in his hand. After a while, he frowned slightly. This secret treasure cannot be activated at all, it feels like an ordinary necklace. Nothing special at all. There is still a lack of activation code, he suddenly remembered. I want to get up again and call the eldest princess back, but I just lost her popularity just now. Whether she is willing or not is still a question. After a while, the door was gently opened again. The two maids walked in and bowed before speaking. His Highness has something to convey to the palace master. Garin was still playing with the necklace in his hand. If you want to activate the secret language, you must agree to His Highness's request. What's the request? Garin raised his head. If you are afraid that I will dirty you, how about a girl who is absolutely pure, a girl who has never been touched? I hope you can regard her as me. The maid took out a small pink box and opened it. The voice of the eldest princess was conveyed intact. If you don't accept her, I will never tell you to activate the secret language, the eldest princess continued with a firm tone. Garin was stunned, he didn't expect the eldest princess to pull this trick. After thinking about it for a moment, he couldn't figure out what she was trying to do. An ordinary girl would have no effect on him. Okay, I'll take her. Snapped. The box is closed. Please wait. The two maids resigned. Garin nodded. Although I don't know what tricks the eldest princess wants to play, but since she is here, she must bring the flash barrier back. If the Duke of White Knock hadn't been standing behind the eldest princess and had a connection with Bailan, he would have started to rob her. Waited for a while. The door opened again. A familiar figure walked in slowly, head lowered. This is a girl who is no more than 23 or 24 years old. She has long gray-brown hair tied into a ponytail and wears a silver close-fitting armor specially designed for the royal guards. There are only a few pieces of this kind of decorative armor, which only clearly shows off the proud parts of her body, especially a pair of slender and round legs, which are white and delicate, with very conspicuous proportions. At the same time, they extend upward, outlining the straight and tight curves of her hips. The door was slammed shut. Are you Sylvia? Garin finally recognized the girl's identity. Sylvia raised her head, and her confused eyes suddenly became clear. Garin, cousin. She opened her mouth so wide that she could barely close it. She had been told that the princess was going to give her to a powerful man and asked her if she was willing. Sylvia has always wanted to get ahead by relying on her own strength, but the reality is cruel. Without totem qualifications or special talents, no matter how hard she works, reaching her current status is already the limit. Moreover, the sudden change of her best friend Hathaway stimulated her always strong character and self-esteem. After weighing it, although she had heard about the quirks of those powerful people, she still gritted her teeth and agreed. The two looked at each other, neither of them expected to meet each other in such an environment. For a moment, the room was completely silent, except for Sylvia's rapid breathing and violent heartbeat. She didn't expect that Hathaway's cousin was actually. When she thought that she was about to become the slave girl of the other party, she felt an indescribable weirdness in her heart. Almost all of the girls sent out by the eldest princess were voluntary, and their status was that of the other party's slave girl. This was a secret that almost everyone in the upper echelons of the imperial capital knew. But if it were anyone else, Sylvia could accept it, but it turned out to be Galen. She bit her lower lip, not knowing what to say, her cheeks getting hotter and hotter. It took her a long time to remember what she had been told to say in advance. The secret word. The secret word is. Facing the cousin of her best friend, she felt like she wished she could crawl through a crack in the ground. Garen was also a little embarrassed, but it was related to the secret words, so he had to listen carefully to what she said. Secret word. Sylvia took a deep breath. The secret word is written on my body, and it can only be revealed when the power of your totem touches it. After saying that, her neck was so red that she felt hot. There are 5 paragraphs in total of the secret language. To be precise, it was deliberately divided into 5 sections by the princess and written on the 5 parts of her body using a special technique. These 5 parts are the most secret parts of women. As long as the other 4 of these parts are revealed, she can also see and record them on paper, but the last one is very inconvenient. Moreover, the condition for it to appear is that the totem master must brush it with the power of the totem. The condition for activating force against outsiders is physical contact. Sylvia's face turned red and she didn't know what to say. Garen smiled. Knowing that this was the intention of the eldest princess, Sylvia, who deliberately chose her, deliberately wrote the secret message in an absolutely private place. Since the eldest princess has worked so hard, she must try every means to achieve her goal. As a normal man, he had no reason to refuse at this point. But even if he wants to play, he can't help but pounce on her now. He really wants to study the eldest princess's method of controlling and seducing others. Sylvia's body may have been specially treated. After returning, with complete equipment, Garen planned to figure it out by himself. As for Sylvia being Cousin Hathaway's best friend, it doesn't matter. Hathaway will be his sooner or later anyway, and their engagement is no joke. It's not that Garen isn't aloof from women. There are many kinds of desires, and physical desire is just the lowest form of desire. He's not very interested in it. When he was in the world of secret martial arts, he learned to control this desire. Especially after the meeting at the Demon Elephant Gate, he focused more energy on other aspects. Let's go back with me. Sylvia couldn't help but speak, but she didn't finish. Garen opened the door directly and walked out of the room, followed by Sylvia. The eldest princess seemed to have expected that he would come out. Someone actually led him outside and led him outside. Regardless of Garen's will or not, once Sylvia is examined by him, as an untouched baby, she can only become his. After getting into the carriage arranged by the eldest princess, neither Garen nor the two of them had the intention to speak. The wheels of the carriage were rattling, the afternoon light was a little dim, and the aroma of baked wheat cakes wafted in the air. From time to time, the sound of iron was heard in the distance. This is the other palace area on the top of the mountain. It will take a long time to get back to the palace area on the top of the first mountain, and you have to cross the abyss bridge in the middle. From time to time, the sound of children playing and the barking of puppies could be heard outside the windows on both sides. Sylvia was sitting on the right side of Galen. Although she was already a trading item of Garen, from the bottom of her heart, she still couldn't accept that the man next to her was obviously the cousin of her best friend. How could things develop like this? Garen, on the other hand, didn't care much about this relationship. Sooner or later, he would study the mechanisms on Sylvia's body, which meant that Sylvia would be his sooner or later, and he would get the imitation secret treasure of Ziserding, and a little beauty along with it, without paying any price in the process. What he is thinking about now is what is the purpose of the eldest princess. Even if the flash barrier is a useless secret treasure, it won't be given to him in vain. The whole journey was silent, and neither of them had the intention to speak. The carriage passed through the streets and crossed several squares. Half an hour later, it finally reached the suspended bridge between the tops of the mountains. The black bridge is like a stone slab with an arch-shaped bridge hole underneath. From time to time, birds fly over the bridge hole. There are also bluebird stone houses built on the bridge on the right side. From these small black stone houses like square boxes, bluebirds fly out from time to time and shoot towards the sky in the distance. Although this extremely fast creature began to decline with the popularity of communication methods such as radio, there are still people who like to use this method to transmit messages. Before getting on the bridge, there is a speed bump, and when the carriages pass in and out, they will make a soft bang and bump. Galen's carriage followed the car in front and bumped with the same bang. Sylvia was still in a state of absent-mindedness, so she didn't pay attention. This caused her body to tilt slightly, and she bumped directly into Garin. Her not-so-large chest hit Garin hard on his right arm. Her face suddenly turned redder, and she quickly sat up straight, not daring to look at Garin's face. Garin smiled slightly and said nothing. More than 10 minutes later, the carriage finally arrived at the palace area. There were already people waiting outside the palace wall to greet Jia Long and others. The two of them, followed by a group of entourage, quickly returned to Blackpool Palace and took Sylvia directly into the heavily guarded inner hall. Entering his bedroom, Galen took Sylvia to the left side of the room, in front of a huge floor-to-ceiling oil painting. The oil painting shows a landscape castle. Among the green mountains and green waters, surrounded by countless dense woods, a white spire castle stands in the middle. Black hawks circled in the sky, and a huge dark blue flying dragon loomed on the top of the castle, its eyes emitting dazzling green light. Garin gently stretched out his hand and put a little bit between Fei Long's eyes. Wow! Amidst the slight friction sound, the large wall behind the oil painting actually sank inward, and then moved to the right, revealing a round arch-shaped 2-meter hole. The cave is brightly lit and is a light yellow rounded tunnel. The wall extends downward to an unknown depth. The floor of the passage is paved with smooth black stone tiles, and exquisite lighting lamps are hung at intervals on the right side. Let's go. Garin took the lead and walked in. Sylvia followed anxiously. At this time, she had no choice. In fact, from the time she signed the contract given to her by the eldest princess and wrote the secret words in her secret parts, her future was already destined. The two of them walked forward slowly in the passage, one after the other. After a while, they turned a fork in the road. After turning several forks, they finally came to a black wooden door in a bungalow and stood in front of it. Garin gently opened the door and walked in. Sylvia no longer hesitated and walked in. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 462. It's rare for Lord Jialong Palace to take action himself. Kong Qin, which one do you think is more powerful? Wu Guang asked, touching his chin. I don't know. The strong men in the central region should be a little weaker if they don't use secret treasures. So I guess Blizzard is stronger. Although Lord Jialong is powerful, he is still young and has insufficient accumulation, Kong Qin replied in a low voice. Indeed, without relying solely on external forces, these guys in the Snow Mountain are indeed very powerful. Wu Guang nodded in agreement. While talking, the two people on the stage finally started to make moves. Blizzard made a move with one hand, and a circle of snow-white ice crystal spikes appeared around him, spinning around him. The ice spikes formed a white ring that rotated extremely fast, cutting the air violently and making a sharp hissing sound. Circles of white freezing air spread out around him with him as the center. Ouch! Blizzard roared, and his whole body quickly condensed into a layer of hard ice armor. The armor became thicker and thicker, magnifying Blizzard's height. From more than 1 meter, it quickly grew to 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters, and 5 meters. By the time he was finished, Blizzard's entire body in the center could no longer be seen. The only thing that could be seen was the huge 5-meter-high ice giant in front of him. The circle of high-speed rotating ice crystals slowly disappeared. Only the crystal white ice giant was left in the ring. I have a total of 3 levels of ice power. This is my first level. Palace Master, be careful. Blizzard among the giants grinned, and the blurry giant head outside barely showed the same grinning expression. Before he finished speaking, the giant raised his fist and punched Garen hard. The huge white fist was more than 1 meter wide, and it was densely covered with ice crystal thorns, making it ferocious and scary. The most bizarre thing is that before the fist arrives, countless white cold air has spread crazily, covering the entire space on the surface of the ring. The two people watching the battle not far away frowned slightly. Blizzard's ice ultimate kung fu is not just a rough fighting technique, Kong Qin whispered. Indeed, Wu Guang nodded. His cold air can silently affect changes in the surrounding environment, and it seems to also affect the opponent's movement sensitivity. This move is a bit tricky, but we can handle it easily. On stage at this time, Garen's expression remained unchanged. He deliberately wanted to try out the light of his fused totem. Faced with this punch, he simply stayed put and stretched out his left hand to face it head on. His palm was light as if he had no effort at all. The fourth type is already the pinnacle of ordinary totem masters. They have exploited almost all the potential of the totem, and they can use it flawlessly, seamlessly, and extremely powerful. Each Type 4 is an existence that maximizes its core totem abilities and should not be underestimated. Bang! The two of them took a step back at the same time. Garen's brows jumped slightly. Although his power was a little higher than that of his opponent, the totem light on his body had a faint tendency to collapse. So weak he couldn't help but sigh that the nine-headed demon dragon's totem light was so fragile when facing a master of the same level. The other party has not yet shown half of its strength and is almost unable to hold on. Blizzard seemed to have discovered Galleon's situation. He smiled, and rushed forward again. He closed his hands and then opened them again. Suddenly a white ice ring shot out, heading straight towards Galleon. At the same time, his whole body jumped suddenly and flew up. Ice explosion! Blizzard roared, and with a huge shadow, he pressed down on Garen. Looking at the ice giant swooping down, Garen raised his head slightly, and the red dot between his eyebrows suddenly lit up. Suddenly, he took 2 quick steps back, suddenly raised his right leg and jerked it. The shadow of the leg turned into a whip, and instantly made a thunderous sound. It actually broke through the ice ring and faced the giant figure in the sky. Bang 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 bang. A crashing sound like raindrops sounded instantly. The entire arena was immediately enveloped by a large amount of flying ice, making it impossible to see what was happening inside. At some point, Garen quietly appeared on the edge of the ring with his hands in his pockets, as if he wasn't the one who had just made the move. If you compare totems, he may not be able to compare with them. Blizzard's totems are obviously not ordinary. But compared to fighting, 10 blizzards are no match for him. At the level of the King of the Century, his understanding of secret martial arts and his superb fighting ability are far beyond what this world can match. Laugh! An ice spike suddenly shot out from the ice-covered arena, like white lightning. Garen just tilted his head and easily avoided it. Immediately afterwards, the second and third ice spikes became more and more dense, like agile flying fish that could turn on their own and circle around Galen. Garen gently reached out and pressed his chest. The flash barrier there suddenly heated up, and an invisible hemisphere barrier quickly appeared in front of him. With a roar, all the ice spikes concentrated at the same time and shot hard on the barrier. The hemispheric barrier was motionless. Huh! Blizzard's surprised voice came from the other end of the ring. He looked at Garen, who was standing still in surprise. This ice spike rain move was one of his proud abilities. These ice spikes had a certain activity, and they also carried blue-eyed cold poison, which could continuously corrode totem light. Unexpectedly, he was caught by the opponent unharmed. Come again, he roared, and the ice giant swelled up again, and it seemed that it could get bigger again. After Garen used his barrier to catch all the ice spikes, he was about to speak when suddenly he seemed to notice something and his expression was slightly startled. Look toward the southeastern sky. At the moment when he was stunned, Blizzard's eyes flashed fiercely, and he punched fiercely again. The violent cold air spread to the surroundings, and the entire arena was almost covered with a thick layer of ice. The huge fist rushed in front of Garen almost instantly. The terrifying explosive power brought by the huge power made the punch extremely fast and fierce. At the same time, a thick layer of ice crystals spread silently from Garen's feet and climbed up, completely freezing his legs. "I don't believe I can't beat you." Blizzard got excited and unleashed all his strength almost unreservedly. Garen seemed to remember the attack in front of him at this moment. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed Blizzard from afar. Boom! The whole arena seemed to shake violently. Blizzard's giant fist suddenly stopped in front of Garen. The distance was less than half a meter, but it was as if there was a huge gap in the sky. His whole body turned blood red, and he immediately fell into a state of unstable energy and blood. The strength just now was unsustainable. At this time, he could only stand on the spot and quickly adjust his energy and blood. Black Water True Skill. Condensing Whip. Garen turned sideways and kicked his right leg sideways. Suddenly, countless water vapor condensed on his legs, and the water flow suddenly grew. In just half a second, it formed a huge water column that was several meters thick and more than 10 meters long. The huge water column was like an extension of Galleon's right leg, slamming into Blizzard in an instant. Boom! Water splashed all over the sky, and Blizzard was whipped away by this leg, exploding into the wall next to it. The whole courtyard buzzed. Garen's whip leg was like a huge battle axe. It was smashed down with an anime water column. An originally inconspicuous side kick quickly condensed the water flow during the kick, becoming larger and longer. It suddenly rose more than 10 meters. The two people on the sidelines were staring at each other, their mouths slightly open, with a slightly dull expression. This kind of powerful and abnormally precise control was no longer a battle, but contained some kind of wonderful art. His power only explodes when he is most needed. When he is not moving, he is like an ordinary person, without any power at all. Cough 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 cough. I don't know how many layers of defensive spells were covered on the wall, and most of them were destroyed at this time. Blizzard climbed up from the recess in the wall with a wet look on his face, and was still coughing. As expected of the Lord of Galan Palace. Why didn't I think of this move? Such control. Such control. He didn't care about his own embarrassment at all, his eyes were shining at this time, and he didn't care about what he was doing. Image of time. Sorry, I didn't pay attention for a moment, and I hit a little too hard, Garen said with a trace of apology in his tone. At this time, he had almost achieved his goal. Although Blizzard did not exert all his strength, he also only contributed 10% of his strength. Blizzard's strength level should be lower than the original Ephesus, but stronger than Angiad. Compared with the others, he should be regarded as the strongest among the 6 elders. Garen thought to himself that with his normal strength, using the Black Water True skill to promote the 4 unique fighting skills of Wangxiang, he should be able to suppress Blizzard, but not many could surpass him. But if you use the Ring of the Troll's grip, you should be able to decide the outcome within a minute, but you have to pay some price, either a serious injury or the loss of a life. Then use the secret treasure to flash the barrier, and you can kill him without any damage. The Black Water True skill can control a certain range of liquids, and of course the opponent's blood is also within this range, but because it is isolated by the light of the totem, the impact is not very great and can only be used as interference. That was what happened just now. After interfering with the opponent, he took the opportunity to knock him off the ring. The convenience of the Black Water True skill is that it can condense the water flow at any time, but it will be affected by the environmental humidity, and the water flow condensed at any time may seem powerful, but in fact it is not very lethal. After all, it is not very dense and is water-based and soft. Overall, this secret weapon doesn't seem to be powerful at all. At this moment, in the distant southeastern sky, a halo of red and purple mixed with light suddenly filled the air. Garen looked in that direction again. That is. Laugh. A white light shot out from the red-purple halo. Suddenly it shot towards the sky of the entire imperial capital. The owner of Woguang Island next to him snorted coldly and reached out to grab it. Countless dark clouds and smoke turned into a big hand out of thin air, tightly holding the white light. But just for a moment, white light burst out of the sky. Wu Guang no longer had time to catch it, and he suddenly let out a light sigh. "I'll do it." Kong Qin's fingers instantly carved out a spell rune. The moment the rune was completed, purple light flashed. The white light in the sky was finally intercepted, falling straight into Kong Qin's hands. "Is this?" Kong Qin's eyes widened as soon as he saw the white light itself. "Alice Mirror Stone," Garen blurted out. This was a prop that was only given to the luminous goddess who went out on a mission to ask for help. However, this prop was actually ejected with such force that it took two of them to catch it completely. In the protected area around the imperial capital, many abandoned mineral deposits were being redivided. Garen asked the luminous goddess to go out and sit in Kurosawa Palace to ensure the interests of everyone. He had only been out for a few days, and this top Type 4 master actually sent a signal asking for help? "It seems that there is something wrong with the red-purple halo," Kong Qin said in a deep voice. "It is probably that some precious mineral deposits have appeared, and the goddess alone cannot control the situation." "Let me go," the owner of Woguang Island offered. "I'm with you," Kong Qin also said. The mining area where Tianu is located mainly produces black gold crystals, and now there is a red-purple halo rising into the sky. A guess flashed through Garen's mind. There is only one possibility for this to happen. Blizzard also walked over at this time, and the three of them looked at Garen at the same time, waiting for his answer. "The shining water." Garen closed his eyes. "The shining water must have appeared there. Go. You three together. The shining water must be ours, and it can only be ours. Anyone who dares to interfere will be killed." Although the other three people didn't know what the shining water was, they all felt the importance of this matter when they heard Garen's ruthless tone. The three of them took the order, each released a huge black bird, rode on it, and flew rapidly towards the southeast. Garen, who was standing there, was covering his forehead slightly, his skin showing veins, as if he was enduring some incomparable pain. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 463. Sparkling Water. This name seems to bring back some memories deep in the brain. Garen felt a sharp pain in his head, as if some scenes were flashing through his mind. Those images were distant and blurry, as if they were not his human memories at all. "It's the genetic information of nine-headed dragon." He walked to the side and sat down slowly under the plum blossom bush. The memory of Kyuzuryu still interferes with his state from time to time, but it is much less severe than before. It only hurts occasionally. Garen stretched out his hand to press the cold stone table in front of him. The cold stone table was extremely smooth, and its hard texture gave him the feeling of actually touching a real entity. I don't know how long it took, but the pain finally eased. Garen put down his hands and took a deep breath. The shining water has appeared. It seems that the collapse of the Royal Alliance is getting closer and closer. The shining water has the effect of promoting the evolution of low-level totem masters and extremely powerful healing effects, but the output is also surprisingly low. In the original history, Kui-10 has one sparkling pool, Xania has two, Enite has one, and there are three scattered in other areas. This thing is the real trigger for the collapse of the Royal Alliance. Historically, shining water had powerful special effects. Although one pool could only produce enough for 10 people a year, and it only had an evolutionary effect on low-level totem masters, this has also triggered conflicts among many forces. Internal conflicts between. Because of the rampant monsters, there are divisions within the Royal Alliance. The ability of the shining water has led to internal strife. Perhaps there is also the conspiracy of the Black Sky Society, but it is undeniable that most of it is because the alliance itself is not strong enough. and it was at this time that Shania's side also experienced drastic changes because of the shining water. The evil god king's totem, which was defeated and suppressed by the current king of Shania, became a mutilated state. Under the treatment of shining water, his injuries actually tended to heal. The king of Xenia, who pursued absolute power, challenged masters everywhere, and even challenged the evil god totem at home. Originally, the evil god king did not pay attention to him, but his speed of becoming stronger was too fast. By the time the evil god king realized something was wrong, it was already too late. King Shanya's talent was terrifying and had reached an extremely powerful level. He and the evil god king had been fighting each other for hundreds of years, and finally he severely wounded the evil god king in one opportunity, and obtained opportunities to stabilize the state and develop the country. However, due to the management of the evil gods for thousands of years, the evil god sect's base camp is strong, and the two sides barely maintain a balance. The emergence of the shining water accelerated the recovery of the evil god king, and a new internal war in Shania was about to begin again. Garen thought carefully. Khawatan now exists in name only, and only a small area around the imperial capital is left. It can be regarded as a heavy casualty. Next came Shania, and finally Enid. Shania is different from Khawatan. The power of the evil cult and the royal family are the top terrifying existences. Black Sky Society will not rashly mess with this behemoth when the Ghost Gate has not awakened. This time the shining water appeared, and Garen realized that this was a good opportunity. The importance of shining water to others is far less than that to the evil god king. Its demand for shining water is very huge. As long as I occupies a pool, I can use it as a basis to bargain with the evil god sect and obtain benefits. Moreover, Garen vaguely felt that the shining water seemed to be helpful in restoring the memory of Nine-Headed Dragon. The headache just now came without warning, and it was definitely not without reason. Garen tapped his fingers lightly on the stone table. Thinking about how to get more benefits for yourself and develop your own strength before the royal family collapses. Not to mention surviving the Ghost Gate, at least we must ensure our own safety. Call. He took a long breath and was about to get up and go back to the palace, when suddenly he saw someone sitting next to him out of the corner of his eye. It's a child. He was holding a red plum in his hand, and he was rubbing the branches with both hands, turning them around, having a great time. What are you doing here? Garen was almost used to the child's elusiveness. I have nothing to do, I happened to make some new discoveries, so I came over, the child replied boredly. New discovery? Yes, you must remember to protect me, the child said with a smile. Garen was speechless. This kid was not doing his job properly. He was just wandering around and having fun. His strength was mysterious, so what kind of protection did he need? Seeing that he didn't want to talk for the time being, he didn't ask any more questions. He got up and walked towards the inner hall. He had lunch with Lala and Bailan, who came to hang out, and chatted for a while. In the afternoon, news came back about the situation of the sparkling water mine. So, although the mine is now occupied, half of the shining water has been taken away. Sitting in a high position, Garen frowned and looked at the peripheral guards of Kurosawa Palace reporting below. Yes, the two elders of Woguan Konkin have already sent out to pursue him. Elder Tianu and Elder Blizzard are guarding the shining pool, the guard quickly replied. Garen glanced at the masters sitting on both sides of the hall. Ephesus still looked indifferent and put the sword on her knees. She said nothing and closed her eyes slightly. She seemed to be recuperating and did not listen to the guard's report at all. Master Angiad of the Seven Knights Pagoda was yawning repeatedly, his eyes were full of dark circles, as if he hadn't slept for an unknown amount of time. Below are the director of Blackpool Palace, Lara, the family guard chiefs Mark Ella and Adna, and the three disciples of Ephesus from Silver Palace. There is also Master Kilian, who just arrived from the technology hall. Garen frowned and looked at Master Kilian. Master, over there at the technical hall. Kilian nodded and stood up. We can send a workshop master to rush over with the latest spell array. The Thorns of Thorns spell array we are currently developing is based on the original Palace Illusion array, modified and simplified. It is at the second type level and is alert. The range is 2 kilometers in diameter. Type 2 magic array, Garen nodded, it's enough as a warning magic array, and it's just a carry-on prop, but what if you want a high-level magic array? Colin shook his head. I'm sorry, Palace Master. Spell formations of type 2 or above require a relatively large amount of rare resources, and the layout workshop requires no less than 10 masters. With our current strength in the technical hall, the research progress will be seriously affected. Then forget it, Garen shook his head. Palace Master, aren't there 3 large sets of spiritual light formations in the separate spell array library? Kilian reminded. Garen also remembered that the most valuable and practical ones in the palace treasury were these 3 large-scale aura formations, with a range of more than 10 kilometers in diameter, and their power could block the entry of all totem masters below the aura level. It is indeed a very good defensive array. These 3 sets of items are also the most valuable items in the entire treasure house, apart from the secret treasures brought out by Garen himself. Of the 3 sets of formations, the 10-turn ring is intended to be deployed throughout the palace area, Kilian explained. The other 2 sets are to be used to lay out the formations within the formation and protect the technical palace and the inner palace of residence. There is also a set that can be used to guard the shining pool. Garen nodded thoughtfully. This is pretty good. Clinian continued. Actually, if we can get more helpers and resources, the strength of our technology hall will be greatly improved. I heard that Enet's master Ravel has great attainments in magic formations. He started to give Garen the list has been called to attract people. After all, he is not a person who specializes in the study of magic formations, and his achievements in this area are not strong. Enet's Ravel, Galen stroked the stubble on his chin. Lala, go to the waiter to contact and invite this master. But the situation in Enet is very stable now, and the master is a national treasure. I guess the success rate is very low, Lara explained. It doesn't matter, just leave a seed, Garen said calmly, and then he looked towards Marzilan. How are my disciples doing now? Marzilan stood up and answered respectfully. The 3 disciples have already entered the first level, and now I have passed on the true skills of the second level. The remaining disciples have also been recorded and rewarded according to the time of entry. The conditions in the palace area where the disciples lived were very difficult, and this was also to hone their will. They ate and drank special nutritious meals, which were rich in nutrients, but the taste was terrible. Those who can eat it are all geniuses with taste. In order to blend the taste to an indescribable level, Garen also specially asked Lala to recruit chefs from the entire imperial capital who could cook the most unpalatable meals without compromising nutrition. The sleeping environment is also the hardest stone bed, and there are only 10 quilts. Whoever ranks higher is entitled to enjoy it. Now the progress of the practice has come out. According to the records, only those with higher rankings are eligible to receive treatment to improve their diet, and can barely get 3 meals that are not too difficult to eat. Of course, in order to get a nutritious meal with ordinary taste, they need more efforts. Maybe some people have tried not eating, but when they are locked up in the palace and unable to go out, if they don't eat these things, they can only starve alive. Moreover, such a nutritious meal is balanced and has a slight improvement effect on physical fitness. People who eat it will gradually progress faster than the average person. Garen was quite satisfied with the progress of the 3 master disciples. As for the remaining disciples, he didn't care much. Only the top rankings deserved his attention. And the speed of the first level does not mean anything. The first level of Blackwater True Skill is the easiest, but the second level is different. To reach the second level, you need to carry out anti-hit training, special medicine, and personal physique. With perseverance and understanding, in a short period of time, 2 or 3 months, there is no need to think about someone making a breakthrough. The further you get to the back, the more difficult it becomes to break through. The second level is a threshold. Those who can break through have good qualifications. Those who cannot break through may be delayed for more than 10 years. Garen thought for a moment. How is the recruitment situation of peripheral totem masters now? 2 aura-level totem masters have already come here. There are 15 other totem masters of the third type, and a few of the second type, Lara replied. Type 2 is sent to maintain the operation of the magic array in the palace area. Type 3 is dispersed into the escort team, temporarily led by Edney and Mark Ella. After a month of adaptation, an internal ranking competition will be held. The one with the strongest strength will automatically become the leader of the escort team. The palace area is divided into 2 male and female escort teams, which are responsible for the security of some public areas. Due to lack of manpower, Mark Ella and Edney are temporarily in charge. However, they are the captains of the family guards after all and have their own management affairs. The Terry Jones family nowadays, their power is getting bigger and bigger, their assets are getting more and more, and they are also a little in a hurry. So Garen gave them the right to promote people, and after promoting a few trusted experts, they finally felt a little more relaxed. What about the 2 spiritual totem masters? Lara asked. Let them be temporarily responsible for the daily life management of the elders in the palace area. Set up a separate elders hall management department and slowly recruit people to expand it in the future.